To give people a little bit of time to catch up. Yeah, I know some people are in. I see Tina is in here. Okay, well, I guess it doesn't want to do that. Get off my screen then. Yes,
Officials
delete.
are. Yep, I already got my article here.
Okay, you got your article. Okay, cool. Are you ready to do? Are you ready to announce the show, sir? Go on ahead.
I feel like I haven't done this in forever.
I know. Then it'll be good practice for you later on.
Make sure you see.
All right, I can go on ahead and do it. Here,
Yeah.
let me throw a background up. Just give me 2 seconds. Which one do I want to go with? And spray. Okay. Craziness going on with my screen. Let me do that other. I think that'll work. All right. Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is Talk of the Ages. I'm one of your hosts, Marcus Cage, here with other young gunner, Mr. Jalen Lawson or Lashley, whichever you prefer. How are we doing, Jalen?
I'm doing all right. Just working, going to school, and everything else between. I think the last cool thing I did, I actually went to an NBA game, but
Oh, cool.
that's like the other most exciting thing I've done. But other than that, just good to be back. It's been a while.
All right, yeah, it's definitely been a while. We'll try to get this a little bit more regularly. Of course, you guys know, been working on a lot of stuff, been doing some interviews and things like that, and I want to do more of those, and I will be doing more of those. Kind of just wait until after the football season ends. That way, I can do them on Sundays. Bring the mic a little closer. So if you guys, of course, you guys saw the thumbnail. For those who are just scrolling by and it's already going live, and you don't see the thumbnail, the topics we're going to get into tonight are we're going to get into the bomb threats that have been going on with the HBCUs. We are going to get into the Whoopi Goldberg comments and her suspension, and then I wanted to talk a little bit about the Brian Flores, former Miami Dolphins coach, and the NFL. So, that's what we got on the plate tonight. I figured first we're going to start off with the HBCUs. So, Jalen, would you like to get us started on that?
Yeah. So actually was informed about this speaking to Marcus on the phone. I think Monday or Tuesday when we were planning the show for today. And at first, my first thoughts of initially hearing it was bomb threats. Immediately, I don't know why my brain just automatically switched to church bombings, and then it's HBCU.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just the first thing I thought of, and I'm like, wow, they still bombing in 2021. So that was my first initial thoughts, and then I found this article. Let me see if I can put it up on the screen.
Oh, okay. Are you going to be able to share it, or you need me to share it?
I can share it.
Yeah, I just clicked off the screen for a little while so I can share us to a couple of more locations. So I am listening to those out in the crowd. That's the reason why I clicked my screen off. Don't want you guys to see me just staring at my phone for long periods of time and think I'm not paying attention.
So I'll just read a little bit of it. I'm not going to read the whole thing, just so you can get an understanding of what was going on here. And we can have Marcus add on. So this was the first thing I immediately jumped to, was where it says, due to a bomb threat on campus, BSU will be closed temporarily today, January 31st, 2022. That was posted on Twitter by Bowie State. So then I went to the Twitter feed, and I was seeing at Howard that a bunch of people were saying, "Oh, we're gonna get bombed. Oh, this is the scariest time." They're targeting Black students. They're targeting African Americans, and those were the first few tweets I saw. And then I saw a couple of tweets saying that there was actually bomb threats on a bunch of different campuses, not just in one concentrated area. So see, here we have one in Southern University in Baton Rouge. They locked their campus down on Monday and canceled classes while they investigated another bomb threat as well. There was another report from there was another tweet from the president of the university saying we are doing everything possible to ensure that our students and staff on campus are staying safe during this lockdown.
And then, yeah, I noticed that it was a handful of universities. How many universities in total did you see that that ended up receiving these threats? Because I want to say, I think I saw maybe about like 8 or 9. Do
I
you
saw
know?
I saw somewhere between 8. I saw the highest number I saw was 13.
13 schools. Wow. And it's kind of ironic. The first week of so-called Black History Month,
Month.
this
Yep.
is what we have going on. You know, literally bomb threats going on to, historically Black schools. And so I was wondering, like, what goes through your mind as somebody who is a college student currently, with this kind of stuff going on?
Well, for me, it was well, to give a little backstory, it was always a big thing to go to HBCUs, especially like my last few years of high school. So I could have just imagined if I decided to go that route and went to a HBCU, and all of a sudden I hear a bomb threat. Growing up, you're told and you see the stories of Black people being killed and being treated as martyrs on TV and in articles and in the news. But it's different when you're actually experiencing it rather than watching it from a bird's eye view. So I don't know exactly what I would do in that situation, but my thoughts on it is just it's corny. You're still bombing churches in 2021. And then the worst part is you paying to go to these schools and they're raping you for the price. And then you got to deal with bomb threats. And whoever is going on, I have to think this sounds like something planned because why would this just happen at this time? Especially with everything that's going on in the past 2 years.
Well, and so many schools at the same time.
There's
That's
so
that's
many
what catches
schools.
my attention.
Yeah, I didn't come to the assumption that it was just one person. You know how they'll say, oh, it was just that one sad kid on campus. It didn't sound like a story that it sounded like something planned. Because why are all these schools getting hit and they're all in the same geographical area?
I mean, well, most of these schools are kind of in the South, so I guess that's what you mean by the same geographical area. But I
Hmm.
mean, it is kind of because there's some of them which are like as far as away from Atlanta to Louisiana. That's where I mean, because most of the HBCUs are kind of in that southeast region,
Hmm.
and so it's if it was just one school, I could see that as maybe some kind of situation with maybe a student or former student or somebody who has a beef with that school in particular, or maybe even
Hmm.
if it's just a hoax because some kid wanted to get out of school. But for all of these schools across the country, and so I wanted to make sure that we covered it because it's something that I virtually, maybe it was kind of like one of those things that was just a ticker across or a banner where nobody even really mentioned, anything about this. So I figured it's something that we definitely need to shed light on. Um,
So Marcus, let me ask you,
mhm.
well, let me rephrase that. You being older, though you aren't a parent, how would you feel hearing those if you had a child on one of those campuses?
It would be terrifying for me, especially all the things you have to worry about with college just in general. Sorry, I'm taking a drink real quick.
No problem.
Get my lines a little crooked there, but all the things you have to deal with yes, your kids going off to college in the first place, and that's a lot already. You have to worry about, you know, you have to worry about assaults that can happen, drug use, possible drinking. Um, for instance, just a little, I guess, a little knowledge for people who don't know out there. When I was married, I did have two stepsons, and one of them did decide to go to a HBCU for a while, Bethune Cookman, and Bethune Cookman, it literally sits like right next to the projects. And so that was something which worried me, that he could end up being in a situation with some local, gang or whatever, where they could decide, well, he doesn't know the area, whatever, rob him, jack him, do whatever, you know, and it could just be personal theft. It could end even in loss of life. I mean, before I graduated high school, I was a pallbearer almost 10 times to classmates. And so knowing how something can start off very small and end in the loss of life is something that sits in the back of my mind. And especially thinking about if I had a kid who was going off to college or away from home, you're not able to, see them and be able to just, even if it's not much you could do and they still could run to the same situations, living with you or near you, you at least you can like give some good words. You could be like, hey, well, Jalen, just make sure you be careful here and there. Or if there's a problem, you just call me up and I can just come and pick you up, whatever, if you were out just drinking too heavy. But now you have to like literally let your kid just go completely and make those decisions on their own and hope that they don't do something which can provoke a reaction or just be in the wrong area. And, it's easy to be just caught up wrong place, wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
And so all that just for normally going to college, and then you add this into the fold. And I look at it with some of these schools, especially in the Southeast, and some of the temperature that's been rising lately, seems like a racial tint has been where, I'm not saying that race issues hadn't always been going on. It just seems like of late they've been kind of picking up, and there's been more strife and animosity between, in particular, blacks and whites. But it's it, in this day and age, it's just a lot that's kind of sitting on my mind, in this kind of situation. Hey,
So
Mona, how we doing?
I can't even see the. I can't even see the comment. What's going on there?
Yeah, Tina is here, and Mona.
So let
So
me ask you, Marcus.
sure.
In the media, it's cool to speak for Black people to speak like, oh, I'm being targeted as an Afro American hetero, etc., etc. But does this make you feel targeted being a Black man?
I feel like you definitely should be. I just I feel like for those of us who kind of grew in more rougher neighborhoods, this is kind of, we've always felt targeted. But if you have kind of grew up in maybe the suburbs and maybe areas where maybe you didn't have some of that racial strife, maybe you grew up in areas even with a bunch of a mixed community, or maybe even a predominantly white community, and you didn't have those problems, it now like makes this more in your face, even if you didn't experience it. That's what I what I
Hmm.
what I would say.
Well, what differs from maybe our experience growing up, I didn't live in poor neighborhoods, but it wasn't super rich, nice, clean suburbs like that either. I still went
Hmm.
to school with ghetto babies. but but as far as that, hmm,
Hmm.
going to school with them, and I went to school with in a mixed area. I went to school with whites, Hispanics, Indian, Black, Asian, a mix of all. But I never encountered, nobody was bold enough to say anything to my face, and not that I was scary or intimidating anyone like that. It's just, that's probably going to result in a fight if you say it. So
Hmm.
it's like people tread it lightly. Some try to push the needle. but then you automatically know you're going to be looked at as the aggressor. So sometimes you got to take the high road, and you got to know when to take the high road and not to take the disrespect. But the biggest thing I really experienced was the underhand slight comments. It would be the underhand racism, like Kanye
Well,
said.
that's what I notice more in when you get into suburban areas. You're not necessarily hearing nigger, nigger, nigger in your face, but you're hearing stuff like, "Oh, well, you know what? You're well spoken for your type,"
You're so well
or
spoken for someone your age.
or or you see where you get hired on and you might be the only one, and when there's all these functions, you're never invited. When it's okay, well, we need to team up for this. Nobody ever comes to you first to team up. You know what I'm saying? Those kind of situations where you kind of get kind of left to your own devices and not necessarily included unless somebody's told to include you.
For
That
me,
kind
I
of
was, I was.
that tokenness.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying, I always did my own thing. Like I never felt like I had to do what other people were doing. But I will say I had a mix of friends. Out of all my friends, most of them they're all African American or West Indian descent. I can tell you, I only have two like white friends, and it's not because I dislike the other color or things like that. I played basketball growing up, and I played it in a bunch of different places all over, and that's where I made like a lot of my friends. So the cool thing was in basketball, you were all loved, everybody liked you. But then at the
Mhm.
same time, you also knew what certain things were. But I also felt some people took it to the extreme in the sense of also it's like, okay, we're not in certain areas. You don't got to be, you know,
Mhm.
because the parents are teaching them to be so uptight. And it's not meaning you don't beware, but it's also like you can't live in fear either.
Yeah, I mean, for me, even though I play basketball and everything, I grew up in I grew up in a state for the most part where racism is just common. It was whether it was directly in your face, whether it wasn't completely in your face. Sorry, I was putting up a little banner.
Gotcha.
Um, Mona says she's in the hood. Variant says, "Hey, Variant." I guess Variant is hopped in here. Um,
Whatever.
Mona says, "Let's put this up." Questlove wrote a really good article on being a black man living in this country. It's called Trayvon Martin and I Ain't Shit. Y'all should read it. Ah, that sounds like a really good one. I might pull that one up. Um, and remind me, I'll pull that one up and go through. No, Jalen doesn't have a lot of time. I'll probably keep it going a little bit longer, just in case in case I don't feel like we got everything out all the way. I talked about some of this stuff a little bit on the political matrix last night, but I just really want to hone down on all these topics
All right.
and kind
So
of get everything off my chest that I wanted to say about
So, Marcus, I know how you feel about certain things in this world from what we talk outside. So that's
them.
why I wanted to ask you, what were your thoughts of the Whoopi Goldberg comments?
The Whoopi Goldberg stuff. Well, for those who know, and hold on, let's go on ahead before we do that. Let's go on ahead and bring them up. I want to see if I can find a quick
Do
video.
you remember how to share it?
Oh yeah,
Okay, perfect. See, you
I
teach a
mean,
man to fish. You teach a man to fish, he eats forever.
yep. I have been doing it quite a bit lately. Let's see. Um, because I got something else up for another story later on. I was like, oh, I don't want to lose that link there. Um, oh, okay. Good morning, America. Oh, let's go on ahead and play this. And I'll go into the details of all of it so everybody will know the whole ins and outs in case you don't know it. Well, at least the ins and out from what I've heard. All right. Let's go ahead and put that up. Let's go.
Host Whoopi Goldberg suspended for 2 weeks for her comments about the Holocaust. Ariel Reshev has the story. Good morning, Ariel.
Good morning to you, George. Though Goldberg has apologized, her comments sparked a firestorm, some seeing this as a troubling sign of fading understanding about the horrors of the Holocaust. This morning, ABC News suspending Whoopi Goldberg for 2 weeks in response to her inflammatory remarks about the Holocaust. ABC News President Kim Godwin saying in a statement, effective immediately, I am suspending Whoopi Goldberg for 2 weeks for her wrong and hurtful comments. While Whoopi has apologized, I've asked her to take time to reflect and learn about the impact of her comments. The entire ABC News organization stands in solidarity.
And I had to stop it already there.
Wait.
I know we didn't even get far, but I had to stop it right there already. Going ahead.
Before, I know you're good to go off on your tangent, but before you do, let me just say this. The one thing I can't stand about this era we live in is that whenever you say something that goes against the narrative, it doesn't even have to be about the Holocaust. It could be about anything. It's you need to realize the impact of your comments. Like who are these comments really impacting? Who's more mad than the people who you're trying to convince to be mad? It's mob movement, it's mob behavior, it's mob mentality.
There we go.
And then you need to reflect on what's going on.
Oh yeah. Oh, hold on a second. Just put a button in that real quick. But I want to welcome Cy Lawson to the show. You guys know him from the Political Matrix, and also a good friend of the show, good friend of mine personally, and that little guy's father there. So welcome to the show, Chris. How we doing, brother?
What's up, guys? Jay, what's up? Marcus, what's up? Man, not much, man. Just here. How's this for irony? My other one, Marcus here. He had a school project, right? And it was for his civics class. So we just finished working on it. He had to create a flyer for the Democratic Party.
Oh, should I tell them? Should I tell them what I told him to do for the project?
I mean, you can, but yeah, go ahead.
So I text when he told us. I said, "Oh, all you got to do is lie. You'll get an easy A."
Yeah, I mean it's true.
And I was sitting here knowing what I know, feeling how I feel, and I'm having to write, join us, the Democrats, because we care about climate change and we care about criminal justice reform. And it's like, damn, the devil is alive because I'm because I'm having to say all this stuff, which I know not to be true, but they're in school. You gotta do what you gotta do. So I just thought that was pretty funny.
Well, it echoes Mona's comment here. Said Questlove wrote a really good article about being a black man living in this country. It's called Trayvon Martin, and I ain't shit. It's a fact that we have to lie because we know that you're going to get demonized if you don't prop up the Democratic Party as a black man. Is an issue. Yeah, Mona says, poor Chris. But
what's up, Mona?
To catch you up to speed, though, we did start off talking about the HBCU bombings and not the bombings, but the bomb threats. So do you have any thoughts on those? Just to get another opinion on it?
I mean, like anything else, you hear these things and, you look to see if there's any validity to what they're saying. But again, I can't think of any organization or people who would really want to bomb HBCUs. I have a hard time thinking that anybody is really thinking about bombing them. To the extent that there is, what did I saw the headlines, but I didn't see if there was a resolution, if they found out who did it. To me, this is more like someone spray painting the N-word on LeBron's garage in his super gated community in Los Angeles, right? Okay, you told me, but I heard you. Do you want me to believe you? Don't ask me that, So I hear the story. Do I think it's true? No. But it plays along with, the Democrats wanting to be the quote protectors of black people and black lives and all this other shit, but we know they could care less.
Exactly.
I think you hit it right on the nail. I think we spoke about it on a more human.
Well, I spoke about it more, giving it the benefit of the doubt, just thinking as a parent that would have some concern of any kind of situation like this. But Chris brings up a good point. A lot of times these things are hoaxes. There are plenty of times where maybe the kids just didn't want to be in school. And so, you know what? We're going to call all these schools out, because you think about it like this. The racists who don't want black kids going to school with their kids, why would they call it out? That's just going to lead to a situation where now you're going to have black kids enrolling in your schools where you don't want them. I mean, they're not just going to say, you know what, I'm just not going to go to college now. That's not what's going to happen. I mean, if they decided they're going to college, they're going to college, whether it's a HBCU or whatever, Boston College, whatever, they're going to college, or even if it's a community college. So yeah, I mean, I don't get why that would be a thing. And it was also, the timing is really weird. First week of Black History Month, and then I thought about, we had that happen then you had this Whoopi situation going on. You literally suspend a black woman on the first week of Black History Month. a high profile black woman.
Look, and the irony is not lost on me that her last name is Goldberg, right?
Well, I'm surprised she didn't get canceled for that before.
I don't know how that happened. I don't know the history of how she.
Oh, do you want to know the history?
I'm assuming she was adopted.
I never thought.
No, she adopted that name. Her actual name is Karen Johnson. She adopted that name as a stage name, thinking, I'm not going to say what she was thinking, but if you know what industry is dominated by a certain group of people, and you know that they're just looking at paperwork a lot of times to get you in the door, using a certain name and she's not the only person who's done this. For y'all who don't know it, Jamie Foxx's real name is Eric Bishop. The reason why he went by Jamie Foxx is because it's ambiguous if he's a male, female, what color, and it's a catchy name. Jamie Foxx. He figured, they'll probably think it's a woman. Let me in the doorway in the first place. Another one, which I can't remember her last name right now, but if you guys ever saw Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the girl who plays Skye on there, her original last name is a Asian last name. She switched it to her more European sounding name to be able to get jobs. And she's just made a whole issue about how they demonize her about her Asian heritage. So this has been kind of like a trick that people have done for a while. Yes, she is a Karen. Actually, hers is with a C, so she's special. But yes, Eric Bishop it is such a strong name. But he knew that they're not going to listen to an Eric Bishop. They're going to listen to a Jamie Foxx. So this is hilarious that, and I just want to make the disclaimer for all three of us. None of us are fans of Whoopi Goldberg. None of us have very much respect for Whoopi Goldberg. But when it's some nonsense, we always call it out, and we feel like we're calling balls and strikes for the most part. We try to be straight up on how we see things. So we'll leave it there. But going ahead, Jalen, what you were saying about the whole Whoopi thing.
Oh, so for the first part of the video, I was just saying I hate in this era. It's whenever someone says something, and it doesn't even have to be about the Holocaust, you could challenge a narrative. It's, you need to go back and think of how your words impact people. This is not a kid who's just being rude and disrespectful and just saying mean things to other people around him. You're talking about someone making a statement about something. It doesn't have to be, you're impacting my teenage daughter. You know what, Whoopi Goldberg, my daughter hates you because you broke her heart because you said this. And it's like, it's just mob behavior.
Look at this. YouTube censors. Let me switch this real quick. But it says YouTube censor your "she's a Karen" comment for some reason. But I got your back. Yeah, I want to make sure that that's put out there. And no, we don't need no censorship. Stupid ass YouTube. And especially over the damn Karen. That ain't shit. There's much worse things you can be calling a fucking Karen. So sorry, go on ahead, Jay.
But yeah, they just want to fake. I call it the fake outrage. Like, what did she say that was so hurtful to you personally? That it's like we have to cancel somebody. When with all the content we have on our phones, you could easily just swipe past it or just ignore it in its entirety. But again, they tell you need to go back and reflect and learn the history. Like she was saying, the horrific things of the Holocaust. Like slavery went on for over.
Well, here, put a button in that. We'll get back to that. Mona said, "What did Whoopi say?" She'll look it up. So let's get into more of this thing. See if they'll explain it in this clip.
I'll put a pin in that one.
Okay, I'll remind you.
With our Jewish colleagues, friends, family, and communities.
If you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race.
On Monday's show, the host of ABC's The View inaccurately claimed the Holocaust was not related to race.
It's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what it's about.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Goldberg appearing to double down on the Colbert Show that night.
The American experience tends to be based on skin.
Yes. And so that is what race means to me. Mm-hmm. When you talk about being a racist, I was saying you can't call this racism. This was evil. Mm-hmm. This wasn't based on the skin. You couldn't tell who was Jewish. Mm-hmm. They had to delve deeply to figure it out.
Then tweeting an apology, saying in part, "The Jewish people around the world have always had my support, and that will never waver. I'm sorry for the hurt I have caused." And the next day, opening The View with this.
I said that the Holocaust wasn't about race, and it was instead about man's inhumanity to man. But it is indeed about race, because Hitler and the Nazis considered Jews to be an inferior race. Now, words matter, and mine are no exception. I regret my comments as...
Just because Hitler considered them an inferior race does not make them a different fucking race. Oh, sorry. Let me get this continued.
They look, Marcus, have you ever seen the show Avatar?
Yeah.
So if you remember when they did the brainwashing in the Earth Kingdom, it looked like they took her to Lake Laogai and said, "It is about race. This is what you must say." She turned around and said, brought up Hitler.
They're not. Okay, so if Hitler considered them a different race, how many European races are there? So what? The Germans are a different race. The Jewish people are a different race. What? The Russians are a different race. The Swedes are a different race. What do we have? Like 50 European races? How stupid is that commentary? What I tweeted out is there's a difference between race and xenophobia. They are different ethnicities, not different races. I mean, genetically, by DNA alone, if you put their damn DNA together, most Europeans all show that they come from the same descendants. By science tells you that. So how the fuck are you a different race? And then this clip talking about she missed. No, you guys are idiots. That's what it is. I mean, sorry. Go on ahead, Jalen.
No, actually, I do want to hear Cy Lawson's take on this.
Or go ahead, Cy.
Before I chip in.
I'll come back to the video in a second, but I kind of want to hear some thoughts because I started ranting.
Yeah, I'll take off after you, Cy Lawson.
I mean, I don't. So, one, I don't know what the conversation they were having that led up to her comments, right?
I can tell you. It was about the book Mouse. I don't know if you heard it. It's Maus, Mouse. It's a graphic novel about the Holocaust, and it's being taken out of some schools. And so now they're saying that it's being banned. It was taken out of some school in Tennessee. And so yes, we all came from Africa originally. But they were trying to make this as if this was like the worst thing ever. If a school district, and well, here's another thing that they don't talk about. The book is a graphic novel. Should it be literature still for people to possibly go to? Maybe, yes. But should it be in middle schools and elementaries? The book starts off with a kid finding his mother naked in the bathtub over a drug overdose. And it's she's drawn in there nude. I don't feel like that's appropriate for kids in elementary or middle school. And they were taking it out of the school. That's what led up to it, Chris.
Okay. So, all right. So they were having a discussion about a book. Whoopi. Now we fast forward to Whoopi's comments. I mean, one, I don't. We have that book in my classroom. I teach 6th, 7th grade. Oh, okay. I don't necessarily think what she said was all that bad. I mean, if you don't like the usage of the word race in her comments, big deal. Do I think that she should have been suspended over that or punished? Of course not. Well, as Marcus said, well, to begin with, we really don't care, right? Let's make that clear. And secondly, this is another moment that you could use to show who you can and cannot criticize in the United States of America. If she wanted to get on TV and say something about people who look like us, yeah, there'll be some pushback. She might have even gotten suspended too. Let's just keep it a buck, right? Because you can't go on TV and say, I hate N-words, or, in today's day and in today's time, you will get in trouble for saying something about people who look like us, okay? So
But she could have got away with saying something insensitive like, yeah, these black kids in the hood, yeah, they do deserve to be getting locked up, like that New York stuff. And could have got a little heat, but she possibly could have got away with it.
Now, that's what I was going to say, but she can be highly critical to the point of ignorant as it relates to people who look like us and others, right? But just that one particular group and this one particular historical incident, they will use that to beat you over the head and beat you into submission and to change your whole outlook and everything that you want to do. Again, it just shows you who is in control, especially of this thing we call media and entertainment in the United States. They are 100% in control, and anything you say that they dislike, you will be gone. Just remember that. And if you're not gone, they're going to embarrass you. You're going to have to walk back your comments like you didn't think about it, as if you didn't put any time thinking about this, as if you haven't read anything. They're just going to basically dog walk your ass until you apologize and you have embarrassed yourself thoroughly. Now, for Whoopi, I don't know if she really cares. She gets a 2-week break. She got enough money, but she's still going to have to come back and apologize again.
Well, she cares because the heat that she's getting. But outside of that heat that she's getting, because I'm pretty sure all her social media is getting ate up right now. She cares about that and what it looks like. And I'm pretty sure Joy Behar is like guilted her to death by now. I want to show you this also.
Real quick, Marcus, let me say this. You know how we have how the Beyonce fans are called the Beehive? You know how the Rihanna fans are called the Navy? Nicki Minaj's crew is called the Barbs. And everyone always is afraid on the internet, right? Like, I don't want to piss off the Beehive. I don't want them coming at me. I don't want the Navy. I don't want the Barbs. This is the biggest crew that you will find and the most effective. So if you think that you can be critical of Beyonce and you're worried about the Beehive, be critical of this particular group. See what their hive does to you. I'm just saying.
Yeah, they just get you canceled off of Twitter. These people, you won't work again.
Correct.
And notice James Goldston. That's the person who is the president of ABC News. And this is one thing. I'm gonna have this conversation eventually with and I don't know if I'm gonna do this. Just I might say fuck it and just do this shit. Uncensored or whatever. Part of me is like, maybe I should do it on Rockfin or Discord or something. But I'm like, no, I shouldn't have to hide and say this stuff. I should just say this, and then if people have an issue with it, then we'll deal with it. How the hell does 1 to 2% of the population manage to be in all the fucking powerful positions and then still at the same time consider themselves the victims all the damn time? The thing about it is, I don't think I've seen a group of people who are more sensitive and weak in my fucking life. They didn't even say anything. She didn't even say that the Holocaust wasn't a bad thing. She said the Holocaust was horrible, all that stuff. Just because one person decides that he thinks that you're a separate race.
She went on to use the word evil. She said it multiple times.
Evil
this was an evil act.
Evil is worse than racism.
And again, that's still not good enough. I don't understand the need. I don't understand the need for her suspension based on the fact that she said that, it wasn't racist.
I'll go ahead and say it.
It's stupid shit. It's stupid shit, and they always want to tie their struggle to ours. Let's just keep it real.
I'm gonna go ahead and say because they believe that racism is the highest level because of what's going on in this country. And if it wasn't racism, that's like saying, even though it's not, in their head, they've made it into, well, if you're not saying it's racist, then it's not the highest bar of discrimination. It's not the highest bar of being put down. It's like you're in their eyes saying it was a white on white issue. And I think that's part of it. The fact that you're saying that it's a white on white issue, it gets in people.
I'm not even really seeing it from that aspect. How I'm seeing it is, it's always the same story across the board, no matter black, white, whoever questions it or says something about it. My thing is, why are they so hell bent on it being so black and white? It was because
I'm gonna tell you why.
Wait.
Here, let me finish. I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna give it to you after this. I promise you. What it is one group of people, because of going back to historical events, they do not want to be considered white. That's what it is. They don't want to be considered white. They say, no, we're Shemitic, so that means that we have a different DNA. We're not white people. And I've heard Jewish people say they are not white, and then in the same breath say they are white. That's what this is about. But go ahead, Jay.
But what I was saying is, what if they're really trying to cover up for something? Would that be so? I'll read this comment by Thomas. The West gave Israel power. All the lands they lost thousands of years ago in reparations. They shouldn't abuse their power like that.
Well, that's the thing. They're extremely abusing the power because this ain't their fucking land. But go on ahead, Jay. I'm gonna go on off if you don't go. So go on.
What if they're covering up for something? If you look for some of the causes for World War II's treaty signed, one of the names that pops up on that list is the Rothschild's name.
No, we won't. Let's not go there. We'll go there on another show, because then we can go so deep on that. So we'll go way too deep on that.
But that's where I'm looking at it as.
I know where you look. I know exactly where you're looking.
You're hiding something, because when you're lying, you stick to that story. You can't mess up the story. It has to be set like this because you can't get caught.
Well, it's also another thing. going to what you're saying, and maybe the audience will cryptically understand what I'm saying. When you're hiding something, you're overly sensitive sometimes to things. So it's kind of like if you cheated on your girl,
Mm-hmm.
then you accuse her of cheating all the time. And let's just say if people are being dishonest about some things, then one thing that kind of goes a little awry of what they're saying and thinking, they gotta, get a little funny about it. Yep. Go ahead and read that one, Jay.
Ashkenazi Jews hold the power amongst today's Jews. They are genetically Eastern European, also known as white. Whoopi had a point though, LOL. Facts.
Facts. Now, the one area where I would disagree with Whoopi on is when it came to dealing with Jewish people, it wasn't a race issue. Although the Nazis were racist, because what we never talk about is we never talk about all the other people who were killed and slaughtered in this, because they didn't only slaughter Jewish people, but the Holocaust, the only victims that matter were the Jewish people. It doesn't matter, all the other people who were killed. Forget the Russians, forget the so-called gypsies, forget the Africans, forget the Moorish descendants of people who were living there in Germany. I mean, and then I've heard people say, well, it's because she doesn't have a concept of what race means, and she's making her concepts nuanced to today. No, there's always been racism between so-called melanated people and non-melanated people. And this goes back all the way back to the damn times of Christ. I mean, in the Bible, and this was in Greece, ancient Greece, we're talking about early 1st, 2nd century, it literally called Jews niggers in the damn Bible. So you can't tell me that racism wasn't a thing. I mean, if you go to the etymology of a lot of these words, where they come from, a lot of them have racist meanings. So you can't say that these people weren't racist all the way back to then. You're telling me that all of a sudden, only in the 1930s and 40s, they weren't. There was no racism then. It's just racism only popped up in America. When think about it, a lot of their stuff, which they came about with the Holocaust, literally came from practices they stole from America. So I just wanted to put that out there. You guys have anything more you'd like to add?
Marcus knows a little too much about. Wow.
No, I don't want
um, you know, this. I mean, of course, there's a lot to add, but we don't want to cause too much smoke for the channel. Chris, you might as well.
to. Very trying to get you in trouble.
I know. I mean, at the end of the day, we just know who. This is just another. What's the word I'm looking for? Just another instance, right? Just remember this. You can talk about certain people, you can't talk about everybody. There is a protected class in this country, and as it relates to those in control of the media and entertainment, it is that particular group of people. If you are on their programs or their platforms and you talk a certain way, they're going to make you pay for it one way or another. So just be mindful.
Technically, two protected classes, because you better not talk about the alphabet gang either.
Oh, correct. Correct. So you can't say anything on those platforms. You have to be very careful and be mindful of yourself, because they will go out of their way. Their resources are extensive, and they will go out of their way to cancel you, and if not cancel you, everything leading up to cancellation. So just be mindful. That's about it.
Well, I mean, I guess to throw in there, we talked about it a little bit with we talked a little bit about the Joe Rogan thing, and then the whole race thing. And I had a white lady yesterday who Gotta go, y'all. Good. Oh, well, have a good night, Mona. We'll catch you later. But thank you for dropping by. Um,
Take it easy.
I had a white lady. She said, "You know what? If you went through 10, 11, 12 years of most white people stuff who've been on TV, you can find something racist in everything that all these people have said." And so to go after Joe Rogan on his handful of comments, I mean, at this point, should we just like, because what you'd have to do is say, well, if you're going to be consistent and you're going to cancel Joe Rogan for his comments, then do we just cancel every white person for all their racist comments? Because if that's the case, then we just need to get back to segregation then. I don't know. What's some of your thoughts, Chris and Jay?
Well, the thing with Rogan too, and not to beat a dead horse because it's already like a full week of this stuff. But let's just say this: had the claims of misinformation that they were putting against him, had they been effective enough to get a lot of people to stop watching him, we never would have heard about him being, quote, racist. The misinformation charge didn't stick, so now they moved on to him being a racist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just so obvious. And of course, they had all these clips, and they had the compilation online of him calling, using the N word repeatedly. Um, Again, I don't know what it's about. I just saw like a few seconds of the clips. I didn't bother to get into the context or why he was saying it because personally, I don't really care. Rogan has no effect on my life, right? Um, so I didn't care. Secondly, we know that when they want to do something and they want people to feel a way, they'll call them racist.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other thing, obviously next would be he's anti-Semitic. If they could prove that, they already would have came with that first, right?
Mm-hmm.
The next thing would be he's sexist. He doesn't like women, and then it'll probably be an attack on him. It'll probably be an attack on him for saying that he's not sympathetic enough or he spews hate towards the gay community. I mean, it's all the same prongs of attack every single time.
Mm-hmm. Jay, some of your thoughts?
I kind of have to agree with Cy Lawson to an extent where they will call you racist when they're trying to cancel you or block you from having a message. They will do anything it takes to, oh, they beat women, oh, they harmed a child, they beat a child, or they'll just go into a straight, oh, it was a suicide, but 2 bullets in the back of the head if they go to that extreme. But they go to whatever lengths to do anything to get you off of what you're saying, even if what you're saying isn't 100% right. Because when Joe Rogan speaks or when anyone speaks, do we really 100% buy into what every single person is saying? No, there's critiques in what everybody says, but the whole point is just to take what you would take the good and then throw out the caca. But they don't know how to do that. It's just if you say one thing, automatically rule out any other thing this person said.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
you have to believe them. They're saying the right thing. You can't think for yourself.
yeah, I think it goes to just the fact of they don't like the fact that he commands a large audience. And the fact that they are losing their audience and people are tuning out to them, even though with the algorithms, they're getting on the YouTube and the algorithms are geared in their direction. They're able to have more saturation through hotels and bars and restaurants and businesses being on all the airwaves. They're all over the place, and yet they still can't muster the same amount of viewership and engagement. I think it ticks them off. And, hey, ICU, glad to see you here. Thank you for joining us. But, oh, yeah, a little off topic. I'll go back to what Thomas said up here real quick. He said the other Jewish groups, rather Semitic or Black, Semitic, you can be Semitic and Black, just to correct, are the second and third class in Israel. And in actuality, I would assume that, well, Semitic is just some, I feel like I might need to bring up my little chart. But I feel like I don't know. You know what? You know what? I'm gonna bring it up. I'm gonna bring it up anyway on that topic. You guys got any thoughts? Any thoughts on what I've said?
Oh, there we go. You said that you can be black and Semitic. Well, I think you're hinting on something that I don't know if we could go all into on the show, but I can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. Here we go. I want to bring this one thing up. See if I can bring it up large.
You know, it's funny though, to wrap it all up, like you said, we don't really associate with Whoopi. But it's funny, out of all the dumb stuff she said, it's that's like, oh, you need a timeout.
Man, I can't make that get bigger, can I? Man, this is what I'll do. You know what? Yeah, I gotta figure out how to do you know how to pull up actually here I'll type it in. Yeah, I will type it into, or you know what? I have it somewhere. I want to send it to Jalen. Oh yeah. Because that comment, it said, it says if they censor racist or controversial white commentators, they will go harder on the left, POC and colonialist. Censorship is bad. Just let people speak and let them ignore or refute. That's the thing. When you're dealing with people who are losing the narrative, and for the longest, they have been spreading misinformation. They don't know how to get that back in the bottle. They've been so consistent in believing that they've been right on everything. And nobody else, there's no possible way you could be correct on anything. This was like, if you guys catch the Rock fan, which the political matrix, including Cy Lawson, which we did with Franco, I brought up a contrarian point of view. Wasn't disagreeing, but trying to show, if you put yourself in the shoes of these different people, how they think, if you automatically think you're correct on everything you're doing, you can justify your behavior on what you do from there. And I mean, we'll call it the serum. If you believe that thing is 100%, that's the way to go, then you don't feel wrong when you force people to do this or force people to do that. It's easy to start putting a narrative together that these people are wrong because they're going against you. And I've come to the conclusion when I heard this statement, nobody ever thinks they're the bad guy. Nobody's ever the bad guy. And so if nobody's the bad guy, then you feel like what you're doing is justified and for the good or best intentions of others. And it's everybody else who's the bad guy. So if nobody's the bad guy, or nobody perceives himself as the bad guy, how do you come to the conclusion that they're going to change their approaches from what they're doing if they don't consider what they're doing wrong? I don't know. I'll pose that.
Well, I agree with you, Marcus, but I would also say, too, the thing about it is, it's not really about misinformation. It's not about racism. It's about control. They can't have someone with the platform the size of Joe Rogan pushing back against what the narrative is. They don't like that. They don't want it. As we covered on our show, we saw that section of Event 201 where they specifically talked about going after people like Joe Rogan. It was part of the agenda. And also, too, this is a shot too, or a message being sent to the other companies, right? Because Spotify, last time we checked, was not part of anybody's government. It's a private company. So this is also showing the other companies, look, we'll come at you in any which way we have to. We'll get it. We'll even go so far as to get some people whose I should say whose their prime was in the 60s and 70s. We'll even go get these people to come online and say how they're removing their music from the platform, as if Spotify is driven by Barbara Streisand listeners or Neil Young listeners or even Joni Mitchell listeners. That is not who's driving the
And I didn't
that's
even
not
know
what.
that she pulled her stuff off. That's how irrelevant Barbara Streisand is at this point.
Yeah, she just put it out the other day. But again, it's about, like all things with the ruling class. When they attack, they very rarely just shoot one bullet, right? Or they don't come with just a single blade. They have multiple goals when they attack, and they're trying to do them all simultaneously. One, Rogan, don't get too big for your britches. Spotify, you can't allow this. And three, to everybody else, look, if you get so big and you get on these platforms, we'll find a way to take you down and or to criticize you and or to make sure you're not as successful as you once were. It's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, it is a lot. I was trying to see if I could bring that comment up. Somehow I accidentally made all my stuff from my phone hop onto my computer, which I've been trying to do for the longest, but somehow it happened. But glad it did. But now it's so buried in here, the photo I'm trying to find for you guys. It's because I wanted to go into that. Actually, I probably shouldn't go into that. But for some reason, I'm driven to want to do it anyway. Bring up the Semitism stuff. Basically, what I'll say is, if you go back to the descendants of, and this is what's funny to me, because so many Jewish people don't believe in the Bible. So if you don't believe in the Bible, you don't believe in Noah. You don't believe in his children, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. So if you don't believe in them, why are you even calling yourself Shemitic at all? Why are you using that as a weapon when you don't even believe in it? That's one thing I don't understand. Also, how are you claiming land or an identity which is based solely off of the Bible? I'm not understanding that. Oh, wait a minute, here I found it. Let me pull it up. Yep. I guess I have to pull it up anyway. I don't know. It's been stuck in my craw. I've been wanting to bring this up because it ticks me off when everybody uses the term anti-Semitic. Now, we can all see this right here. This is Shem. This is just one of the three sons. This is a nation. That's a nation. This was a nation. That's a nation. This is a nation. These are all nations. These are nations. All of these are nations. All of these are nations of Shem. So what that tells you is there cannot be one Shemite. This right here, the Israelites, or these people are the Israelis, consider themselves the Israelites, which is kind of interesting. If you look up in certain dictionaries, it'll tell you that it's a misnomer to call an Israelite an Israeli and vice versa. But for intensive arguments, they're saying they're these people, Israelites. Do you see all these other people? In fact, here's one right here. If you talk to a lot of Arabs today, they will tell you they are Ishmaelites. That's a descendant of Shem. So a lot of those people who are in Palestine right now, when they're attacking them and bombing them, that's anti-Semitic right there. That's attacking descendants of Shem also. I won't go into everybody who's down here. It gets kind of controversial explaining, but Elamites. There's a nation of people to this day that will tell you, yes, we descend from Elam. We are Elamites. They are Shemitic. That would be Pakistanis, and some people in India. They will tell you, I'm an Elamite. That means those people in India and Pakistan, they're Shemitic people also. Aramites, that's another group of people who are over there in that area. Meshach, that's people who live in Turkey. That's saying all of these people are all Shemites. But yet, 1% of the world wants to say that they're the only Shemites. Do we not see how people are playing around with words already? Now we're to believe that, you know what, there's hundreds of different European races. No, there's different European ethnicities, not different races. And the fact that you hear news people who went to college, who should know better than this, are repeating this stuff, that should tell you how screwed up this system is. So let's go on ahead to our next story. Chris, I'd like for you to kind of get people into it because you are more our resident sports guy. And this happens to be a subject which hits you on both ends, on sports and on politics. The Brian Flores situation.
Wasn't he? He was, well, not wasn't. He was a coach of the Miami Dolphins. He lost his job. The Dolphins didn't do as bad as the owner wanted them to, and in subsequent text messages that Brian Flores was having with the New England Patriots coach Bill Belichick, Flores learned that the New York Giants had made their decision about a coach, even though Flores was still to interview. So, as we discussed, the NFL has a Rooney Rule in place, which says that each team, after a coaching vacancy, needs to interview someone who is not white, basically a black guy. And with that said, Belichick from the Patriots basically told on the league as to how they go about these things. So yeah, they'll bring in a black guy, they'll do the interview, but they already know they have somebody else, but they're just going through the formality of having to they're just going through the formality of interviewing a black guy because it is part of the rule. So they're doing what they have to do, but we know their intention is just to go through it and not to actually hire you. That really doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that the owner, Stephen Ross of the Miami Dolphins, wanted to pay this guy Brian Flores $100,000 per game to lose. To me, I think that's the most important thing of this whole shit, because you watch the NFL, you watch any of these sports, but let's just talk about the NFL since we're here. You watch this thing, you think it's really all about guys training hard, performing, and leaving it out all on the field, as they like to say. No, the hidden hand is there too. And it is influencing the outcome, whether you realize it or not. If people want to call you a conspiracy theorist, just say, okay, fine. But clearly, an owner offering to pay his coach $100,000 per game to lose, that's really saying something. Hugh Jackson, I believe, of Cleveland, said he received a similar offer. I don't know if the figure was the same in terms of the 100,000, but
750,000.
Yeah.
Would he receive a lump sum at the end of the season?
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, we could talk about the race part of it if you want to. Honestly, I'm over talking about the race part of it because these NFL owners showed us years ago who the hell they were, what they stand for, and what they're about. And they don't care about the color of your skin. They care about the money and everything else that they care about, which is not us. They care about us clearly to make sure we're okay to run the ball, pass the ball, tackle the guy with the ball, and all these other things. But do they care about your well-being after that? No, of course not. So I'm just more interested to see if the sports world, even the sports commentators, if they're even going to touch on the fact that this guy was paying to tank was paying to lose games. We know teams tank, right? We know if LeBron James is, if he's a senior in college and he's getting ready to join the professional ranks the following year, yeah, of course, teams are going to want to lose to get access to that guy who could potentially change the outcome of your franchise. We get that part. However, you paying them specifically to do this, it takes it to a whole nother level. And after watching that Chiefs game and Bengals game, I have to wonder, was somebody paid? Because that end of the whole fourth quarter, I didn't understand it. They looked like they were not trying to actually score a touchdown. They would look like they looked like they were only trying to score a field goal, which really didn't make any sense to me. I mean, they were playing bad most of the second half, but in the fourth quarter, they were moving the ball as they wanted to, and we see how it ended up. But again, in light of this, the news that comes out of Flores, were they paid? We don't know, but I'm sure eventually one day this stuff will come out. Correct, Thomas. That's what I'm saying. Like, so there's really no point in watching it, really, because it's really not Marcus against Chris, Jay against Marcus. It's none of that. If somebody decide to cut a check, that's what it's going to be, and everybody's going to participate because everybody wants the money.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. Only area where I disagree a little is I think it is about race slightly, because it's like they don't care about none of their players, coaches for the most part, the owners. But do they care about somebody even less than that? I think so. And so they're like, okay, if we're gonna have somebody go out there and lose, we're gonna go make these people go out there and go and lose and make them look bad, and then we'll because I've noticed teams, you'll watch a black coach come in, start building the team up. Right when they're about to make that turn to lose, coach gets fired. Then they bring in a white coach typically, and then all of a sudden everybody gives that white coach credit for turning the team around.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that's the Buccaneers. That's John Gruden and Tony Dungy. That's what it sounds like to me.
Happened with Herm Edwards and the Chiefs too. I mean, I've seen it a couple of times over and over and over. Jalen, some of your thoughts on it. I got a video I want to play for you two. I don't know if you've seen it, but I definitely want to play that.
Being that I'm more informed with the NBA, it kind of reminds me of a similar thing that they do there too. If you notice that most of the guys who come back to coach who are former NBA players, more than likely they're white. For instance, before the Cavaliers hired JB Bickerstaff, they had an interview. The Nets had an interview with JB Bickerstaff and went ahead with Steve Nash. And it was in the media that it was due to his ultimate basketball experience. But JB Bickerstaff had just been proving that he could put young cores together and get them to play, as he's doing in Cleveland. And you see, I know there's been a train wreck in Brooklyn, but you can see Steve Nash is not that well at coaching. So for that, to tie that in with the NFL, it's kind of the same thing. I see it as more of it's an owner's game, and the owners really control what goes on there. And like you said, you're paying a large amount of money per game to lose games. It just sounds like something fishy's going on.
Well, something that I noticed, and I was like, you know what? Maybe it's because I'm a Chiefs fan that I'm looking at this biasly. I looked at last year when the Chiefs lost to Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl, and I was like, that just felt fixed. That did not. I mean, I'm like, Tom Brady that didn't feel right at all. And certain plays I watched of the game, I mean, even Pat Mahomes' face, he looked like he was like, what the fuck just happened? You know, he looked like he didn't get it. I mean, I don't think NBA is as bad as the NFL, but I do believe the problem persists across all the professional sports. Definitely. Um, and then skip up to this year. You had the Bengals, which when they played the Chiefs in the regular season, it was a back and forth game, but the Chiefs had control. Then all of a sudden, at the end of the game, a couple of calls go the wrong way, Bengals win. Very next game, Raiders, same thing happens. Very next game, or when they got into the playoffs, they play against Derrick Henry and the Titans, who was probably the most unstoppable running back in the league today. Somehow managed to stop him. That didn't sit right with me. I'm like, no team has been able to stop him, but you guys can with one of the worst defenses in the league. That doesn't make any sense. Then you go to the next game. I can't remember who they played, but I'll just go to the Chiefs game. Chiefs were stomping them out. The Chiefs were stomping them out, having no problems running up and down the field. Then all of a sudden, they couldn't make it. But it was just weird to me how that game went. Now, my theory overall is they've always kind of nudged, and that invisible hand has been there to kind of guide teams where they wanted them to go. But after the pandemic, because they lost a lot of money, they figured, well, we're going to have Brady win it in Tampa. And, because everybody loves Brady, and Florida was one of those states where it'd be easy for people to go in and out with the COVID restrictions. It would be easier for them to have a Super Bowl there, get most of their people there because it's a hometown Super Bowl. First time ever in history that's happened. Then you have this year. The Rams are playing in their home stadium also. So you're telling me that two events which have never happened in NFL history happened back to back? I mean, and just so much stuff. Rams just got a brand new stadium this year. They bring in a lot more superstar athletes all of a sudden. They're struggling in certain parts of the season and all of a sudden get it straight. To play against Cincinnati, who hasn't been to the Super Bowl since 1988. It's just setting up, whereas they picked a team which is one of the teams which doesn't have a huge fan base to be able to come and just beat them up in the Super Bowl and win. That just seems a little shady to me.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I felt the same way too when I saw. I was like, Cincinnati. When has Cincinnati ever been good?
Yeah, 88. I was gonna say, yeah, Jay, if you have to take off, it's all right. Me and Chris, we can finish this last part. But we appreciate having you here.
I just wanted to say, it's good to be back. I hope we can get back into the flow so we can keep getting more content out to you guys. Me and Marcus talk about the show all the time. But I just want to say thank you for coming on, Cy Lawson. And I want to say thank you guys for joining us. I know I have to cut short, but I promise I'll be back for a full-length episode next week or sometime this week, whenever we reschedule.
Yeah. Busy college kid. We get it.
Yeah, I'm actually typing an essay on the side.
All righty, brother.
All right,
Thanks for joining. All right,
you
have a
guys
good
take
night.
care. I'm gonna come back and watch the rest.
All right.
All right, peace. I'll speak to you guys.
All right, peace. Yeah, quick side note. Yes, Thomas, that is all correct. You said there, scholars, historians, and anthropologists use the term Semitic to describe the indigenous people of Middle East and North Africa. Well, kind of the whole entire Levant, which people have spread over times. That gets complicated, but we'll talk about that on another night. But here's this one. I wanted to show this, Chris. I don't know if you've seen this or not. I know I haven't seen this until recently. And I was like, man, that is so fitting. So let me share my screen. It's a Ted Koppel interview he's having with former commissioner of Major League Baseball. And they're talking about Jackie Robinson. Have you familiar with it, Chris?
I might have. I'm not 100% sure.
Oh shit, that's not the right one. Oops. I thought I had it here, but let me back up. There it is. So I'm going to skip to about 4 minutes in. And this was a very enlightening view because I don't feel things have changed very much since then. Let's go to about right here.
Managers today? Currently, I don't believe so. But more significantly, are there any black general managers or employees? Are there any black club owners? Jack, I asked Jack once, would you like to manage after he was through playing? And he said, as a matter of fact, although he had some tough associations with baseball, yes, he thought he would, thought he'd be a good one. And he said, once I got a call from Vancouver, which was in the deep minor leagues, and they asked if I'd be interested, and I told them I would be. They never called me back. So although we all can rejoice in the progress that baseball has made in integration, I think if Jack were alive today, Jack would say, how come there are no blacks running ball clubs?
Mr. Campanis, it's a legitimate question. You're an old friend of Jackie Robinson's, but it's a tough question for you. You're still in baseball. Why is it that there are no black managers, no black general managers, no black owners?
Well, Mr. Koppel, there have been some black managers, but I really can't answer that question directly. The only thing I can say is that you have to pay your dues when you become a manager. Generally, you have to go to minor leagues. There's not very much pay involved. And some of the better known black players have been able to get into other fields and make a pretty good living in that way.
Yeah, but you know in your heart of hearts, and we're going to take a break for a commercial, you know that that's a lot of baloney. I mean, there are a lot of black players. There are a lot of great black baseball men who would dearly love to be in managerial positions. And I guess what I'm really asking you is to, peel it away a little bit. Just tell me, why do you think it is? Is there still that much prejudice in baseball today?
No, I don't believe it's prejudice. I truly believe that they may not have some of the necessities to be, let's say, a field manager or perhaps a general manager.
You really believe that?
Well, I don't say that they're all of them, but they certainly are short. How many quarterbacks do you have? How many pitchers do you have that are black? It's same
yeah, but I
thing
mean,
applies.
I got to tell you, that sounds like the same kind of garbage we were hearing 40 years ago about players when they were saying, not really cut out. Hey, you remember the days, hit a black football player in the knees, and no, that really sounds like garbage if you forget to say so.
It's not garbage, Mr. Koppel, because I played on a college team, and the center fielder was black, and then the backfield at NYU with a fullback who was black. Never knew the difference of whether he was black or white. We were teammates. So it just might be that why are black men or black people not good swimmers? Because they don't have the buoyancy.
Oh, it may just be that they don't have access to all the country clubs and the pools. But I'll tell you what, let's take a break and we'll continue our discussion in a moment.
Well, I'm surprised
Continuing
that
our conversation now with Al Campanis and Roger Kahn. Mr.
No, I'm saying I'm surprised that Ted Koppel pushed back on him as much as he did in 1987. Because, I mean, let's face it, in 87, it would have been cool just to be like, oh, all right, that's Al Campanis. Thank you for joining us. But, his reasoning was ridiculous. Again, it's not surprising. This is 87. I mean, you heard him as Variant quoted down below, the necessities. In other words, they lack the mental capacity to perform this job. And it can only be done by somebody who is not black. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
But how much has things changed? Actually, if you look at this, like Ted Koppel pushed back and said, That's what they said about black players. But and then once you had black players, it showed, oh, they can do this. And they're still using that same excuse for black owners. You notice how he said, well, you notice there aren't really any black quarterbacks, because he was insinuating that they don't have the intelligence to be black quarterbacks. And then what we
pitchers.
Yeah. I mean, here, there's more. You got to hear it, because he just keeps foot all down his own mouth. I mean, it's just, I'm sitting there like, yeah, this video is called Al Campanis cancels himself on national TV 1987. And he really did. He let the cat out of the bag. This is what these NFL owners still think today. This is the reason why they act the way they do. This is the reason why we have this Brian Flores situation. This is the reason why we have Hugh Jackson saying the stuff he's saying. They still think this way.
Con, how much courage did it take on Branch Rickey's part?
It took enormous courage, and he was threatened with ostracism by all of the other owners. The people that Red Smith used to call the fatheads who run baseball. Well, that phrase comes to mind because I think the real reason there are no black general managers is that there are a sufficient number of fatheads running baseball who think blacks aren't intelligent enough to be general managers. Al Campanis has been a friend for 40 years, and he doesn't only have my respect. The Dodger record tells us what kind of a baseball man he is. But let's say what it is, that there is a sense that the black can work in the field. He can work in the cotton field, he can work on the ball field. But ask a black to use his brain, run a team, plan a team. Oh my goodness, you're talking about real integration there.
Yeah, Al Campanis, from everything I understand, you're a very decent man and a highly respected man in baseball. I confessed to you before we began this program, baseball is not one of my areas of expertise. I'd like to give you another chance to dig yourself out, because I think you need it.
Well, let me just say this, Mr. Koppel. How many executives do you have on a higher level or higher echelon in your business?
Yeah,
in TV. I mean,
you're absolutely right.
Or anchormen. How many black anchormen do you have?
Fortunately, there are. Yeah, fortunately, there are a few black anchormen. But if you want me to tell you why there aren't any black executives, I'm not going to tell you it's because the blacks aren't intelligent enough. I'm going to tell you because it is that.
What he's gonna say is it's the same reason, because I wanted to show this clip because it ties into the Whoopi Goldberg situation. Because I don't know if people can tell or not. I know because of I was tipped off by his name. The man he's talking to is Jewish. Can anybody out there tell that he was a different race than Al Campanis? No, nobody can tell he's a different race. There's a reason why they put stars on them and tattooed something on their arm so they can tell the difference. But the same kind of hierarchy that's going on in TV, just like I showed you at ABC News. What was his name? James Goldston.
Oh, Goldston.
James Goldston, who was the president of ABC right now, is a Jewish man. It's still the same, and majority of Major League Baseball is still the same people, still owned by that same 1 to 2% of people. So I just wanted to put that out there. Granted, some people will speak on our behalf, but it's still a very, very small percentage who are making these decisions. And we've always looked at it as black and white, that it's mostly just white men. Well, since you consider yourself a different race, let's talk about this different race who's making a lot of these decisions. And let's not put it all off on broadly white people. Then you guys want to be a different race? Then we'll say that Jewish race. That is the people who are making a lot of these damn decisions, just like the Dolphins owner. So let's go ahead and continue.
Yeah, who blocked Big Mike? Who blocked Big Mike so fast? That was you?
Yeah. I ain't got time for hearing that bullshit. I mean, you know what? For me, all lives do matter. But to the people who run this country and to police officers and all that, all lives don't fucking matter. So don't give me that all lives matter bullshit. You get the fuck out of here with that shit.
Whites have been running the establishment of broadcasting, just as they've been running the establishment of baseball for too long, and seem to be reluctant to give up power. I mean, that's what it finally boils down to, isn't it?
Well, we have scouts in our organization who are black, and they're very capable people. I have never said that the blacks are not intelligent. I think many of them are highly intelligent, but they may not have the desire to be in the front office. I know that they have wanted to manage, and some of them have managed, but they're outstanding athletes, very God-gifted, and they're very wonderful people. And that's all I can tell you about it.
Roger Kahn, I must say I'm flabbergasted. It seems to me we haven't made all that much progress then in 40 years.
Ted, we haven't. Let me tell you about the prejudice in which baseball is so rich, or perhaps, I mean, impoverished. You can't be really rich in prejudice. A few years ago, for an adventure and to write a book, I bought a minor league team in Utica, New York. And I was the president of the Utica Blue Sox. And a very prominent baseball man, whom I don't want to identify, said, you know, almost everybody loses money in the minor leagues, but you're going to make money because your kind always does. Baseball is, I say, rich or poor in that kind of prejudice. Jews always make money. Blacks can't think well enough to be general managers.
I'm sorry. Pull out the tiniest little violin there is. At least you were able to buy the damn team. At least you were able to buy the damn team. I guarantee you, if you would have had a black man in that time who had the money, they wouldn't even been able to buy the team. So notice they're talking about Jackie Robinson, racism in baseball and sports, and this man has to switch it and put it on the poor Jews, how they're treating us. You want to say something, Chris?
Not yet. Go ahead. Play the clip.
Okay.
It is a phenomenal kind of single-mindedness, but what really surprises me is it's 40 years. I mean, 40 years since we made that incredible breakthrough. I say we, I had nothing to do with it. Since that breakthrough was made, what's it going to take for the next breakthrough to come around?
Well, 40 years in King Lear, to use a phrase from a writer I admire, is an inch of time. Here's something I think that I saw happen. Walter O'Malley, the late president of the Dodgers, one of the great money-making executives and entrepreneurs in baseball, happened to be a trustee of a little private school that I went to. And one day at a game where Jack was playing, invited me into his private box to meet an unemployed California politician who had had more than one drink. And the politician was studying and watching Jackie Robinson, this black in a sea of white faces. And even though he'd had some drinks, he was studying it. Some years later, this unemployed California politician got a job, and his name was Earl Warren. I like to think, and I believe I'm right, that what Earl Warren saw Jackie Robinson do had something to do with Earl Warren shaping the Brown Board of Education decision, so that the Jackie Robinson adventure in Brooklyn.
I just wanted to add in real quick, that same Earl Warren he's talking about is the same Earl Warren from the Warren Report from Kennedy. Just want to put that out there.
Is still having its good effect in the fact that Earl Warren worked to get American schools integrated.
Yeah, and I have to point out to a number of people who may be too young to remember, Earl Warren ultimately made it to the Supreme Court and became Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Let me get back, Al Campanis, to you, and let's close out this discussion with a little more talk about Jackie Robinson himself then. How long was it before all that kind of hustling, all that kind of the high spikes, all the, you know, the balls deliberately thrown at him. How long before that ended? How much of that did he have to put up with?
Well, in Montreal, it started and it was despicable. Not only the knocking him down with high pitches, but sliding into him very hard. I would say after about 4 years or 3 years in the big leagues, he was really accepted as an outstanding ball player, and they treat him just like everybody else. But it did take some time. He had to show that he was an outstanding ball player. They respected his ability, and I think all of that throwing at him, trying to hurt him on a double play and things of that nature became something of the past.
What about the business that Don Newcomb was talking about there before? When the guys were on the road together, the white players would stay in one hotel, the black players would have to stay in another hotel. I mean, there weren't that many black players in those days.
Well, I think that was, Mr. Koppel, that was very early on. That occurred, I think, in 1947, perhaps in 1948, spring training, but after that, they were very integrated.
I have a less sanguine view, if I may. 1953, Jack came to me and said the Cardinal bench was calling him names which I wouldn't say even to my own kids, let alone on national television. And he said, I've been doing this for 7 years and I don't feel I should have to take that bleep anymore. Would you do me a favor? Would you put it in the paper? And I sure did.
And what was the public reaction then? As I said at the beginning, he clearly was an instantaneous hero in the black community. I mean, he suddenly made it possible for black kids all over the country to identify with at least one player on the field in the major leagues. What did it do to the rest of the country? Was there any sense of shame?
I think there was a sudden awareness. I was myself raised in Brooklyn in a liberal Roosevelt Democratic ambiance. When I first saw Jack in '47, and Jimmy Cannon, the late columnist, wrote the memorable line, "He is the loneliest man I've ever seen in sports." When I first saw that, I suddenly said, I never realized this whole thing is white. It's an outrage. It's a disgrace. And it made me aware of the racism in which I had grown up, not in the Deep South, but in Brooklyn. And I feel of Jack that that somebody said, well, what did he do for his race? Here's what he did. His race is humanity. He did a lot for all of us.
And what did he do for integration as it, I mean, it was years really before what, 1954, before Brown v. Board of Education. So that was 7 years after Jackie Robinson came into baseball. It seems so strange to me that we're able to see that kind of integration on the field and yet not be able to visualize it in the clubhouse, not be able to visualize it in the managerial suites. And in all fairness, Mr. Campanis, you're right, not be able to visualize it in the executive suites at the networks and in some of the major newspapers. We've all been much too slow. What reasons do you attribute that to, Mr. Campanis?
Well, Mr. Koppel, I think that Jackie Robinson probably did more for the acceptance of a black athlete than anyone that I have seen or known. But what you got to realize that when you had the problems from the Civil War, it becomes a thing that doesn't happen overnight. I think Jackie did a tremendous job in making the black athlete acceptable in the areas which had never occurred before, namely playing professional Major League Baseball. And if you look back and think about the fact that it took so long for an athlete, you've got to realize that it's going to take a little time also for executives and managers. They have to sort of get into this just about the rate that Jackie did, which took a long time.
I guess I don't need to remind you, Mr. Campanis, when Jackie Robinson joined, you were a kid.
We played together.
Yeah, I mean, but you were a kid. You were a youngster, right? You were what, in your 20s?
I was in my mid-20s, right.
Mid-20s, all right. Well, you're a man in your mid-60s right now. How many generations is this going to take, do you think?
Well, I don't have the crystal ball, Mr. Koppel, but I can only tell you that I think we're progressing very well in the game of baseball. We have not stopped a black man from becoming an executive. They also have to have the desire, just as Jackie Robinson had the desire to become an outstanding ball player.
I can't imagine that there is no black who has the desire to be a major league general manager. There's a Don King in boxing who seems to be a pretty good entrepreneur. There's never been a black owner of a major league baseball team. I don't know why. I think in a business which employs, Al would know the stats, perhaps a third of the ball players are black, perhaps a little more. It's about time we had a black president of the team.
Just as a matter of curiosity, Mr. Campanis, what is the percentage now of black ball players, for example, in your franchise?
I would say, I think Roger mentioned the fact that about a third of the players are black, and that might be a pretty good number. And deservedly so, because they are outstanding athletes. They are gifted with great musculature and various other things. They're fleet of foot. And this is why there are a lot of black major league ball players. Now, as far as having the background to become club presidents, presidents of a bank, I don't know. But I do know when I look at a black ball player, I am looking at him physically and whether he has the mental approach to play in the big leagues.
All right, Roger Kahn, let us end where we began, which is to focus, as I said at the outset, if he'd just been...
You know, isn't it something to have all of these conversations and interviews and they never once feature us? And to the extent that they do feature a black person, it's one who isn't up to code, able to really jump in and out of these conversations and to tackle each one of those things that he said line by line. I mean, it's always like that. And of course, you know, the guy who's currently on the screen, he looks like the hero, right? But
well, they always have. I've noticed a certain individual or group who speaks for us. I notice it's always when I look back to a lot of these old clips, I notice it's always a certain white. Oh, that's right. They're not white. Group of people who speak on our behalf for us. Instead of, it's, I mean, the reason why I wanted to show this is because even though this was 87 would be how long ago? Close to like 35, 36 years ago, something like
30,
that.
35 years, depending, 34, 35 years.
So we take, and what he said is that mentality which they were having then in Major League Baseball goes all the way back to Jackie Robinson's time. So we're looking at 75 years or so. Apparently, none of the mentalities of the people in Major League Sports, apparently journalism, apparently even shows like The View at the top echelon has not changed much. So,
that was the one thing that the Campanis dude said that I would have flipped back around too. And we're in 2022 in the 21st century. How many black men are on TV? Straight black men who are not aligned with the Democratic Party. How many of them are the face of a program on any one of these networks? CNN, can't find it. MSNBC, non-existent. Fox, of course not. HLN, you go through all of them. It's never a black man, again, especially one who is not aligned with the Democrat and with the Democrats
or Republicans.
I was gonna say one who's not like a Thomas Sowell, who sees nothing wrong with the Republicans and just thinks they're great. So it's just look, we're smart enough to figure out the pitcher's timing. You're fast enough. You're smart enough, even from Variant. Even when the media does bring on a black face to represent America, It is someone who has the opinion they want presented. Correct. That is 100% fact. But look, you're smart enough to figure out the pitches count. You're smart enough to figure out when to steal base, when not to. You're smart enough to figure out when to bunt or when to swing for the fences. But you're not quite smart enough to figure out how to manage a baseball team. It's an insult. And the thing is, there's actually people who really believe that.
Well, apparently you can look at the results. You can just look at the results of what we have in most major league sports or most, I mean, everywhere we go, people say Black Lives Matter movement actually made some difference. But when you look around at the results of what we're seeing around us, it ain't made too much of a difference on damn near anything.
No, it made differences for the people who running it. They made their bank account way different now. Shit. They made some differences.
Well, I mean, that's the same thing with a Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson. You can have these handfuls who, but this goes all the way back to the damn plantation. There was that house, you know what, who they had nice suits, they ate good, and it was those ones out in the field that got treated differently. They got treated, well, both got treated substandard, but one still got some, what some would say, the bones and the biscuits. So they got the bones and the biscuits while the other ones got all the complete guts and the scraps. And that shit ain't changed. But, I guess on that note, we can leave it there. I wanted to get into that clip. I wanted to show you that clip, definitely, Chris, because when I saw that, I was like, this is a perfect encompassment of how the more things change, the more they stay the same. All it's done is gotten like a more advanced version of what it used to be.
Correct. Now they won't put you and I on, but they'll give Don Lemon a shot. They'll give what's the black female on MSNBC, Joy Reid. They'll, again, as long, to the extent that they will put a black person or make a black person the face of anything. Hey, what's up, Tina? To the extent that they would put any of us as the face of something, clearly we are on their team. And we are saying, as Varian said, we are saying everything they want us to say. So when you do see us, just know it's a program bot.
It is a motherfucking token. Token. That's what you're getting. You're getting a step and fetch. That's what you're getting. You're getting what they call it. You remember the movie Posse, Chris? Mo-T-Sa?
Mo-Kisa. Yeah, I remember Posse. Damn, that was a good reference.
That's what you get in the Motisa tribe. So, I mean, that's where we are still in this day and age. Ooh. But I want to thank Jalen for being able to find the time. We've had trouble getting our schedules together. He's been kind of busy, work, school. I'd rather the young man be working on bettering himself for the future, and take some time off from here. Take that first and foremost, because that's what pays the bills in the end. But it is nice and appreciated when we are able to have him on here. But eventually, what I'm working on is for him to be able to step out on this channel, of course, but step out, start doing some of his own like individual broadcasts, rants, if you will, whenever he has a better time. And then we'll probably be trying to get my brother Cy Lawson over here on the Talk of the Ages, and then we'll kind of go through some of these things which are great topics, but they're not quite topics that fit for the political matrix. Stuff that we want to talk more pop culture, stuff that kind of fits, I guess, more culture war. What's up, Atris? Glad to have everybody who came through. Appreciate y'all. For everybody who catches, this later on, says Tina is the new Mona. Actually, let me go on ahead and do that right now while I can think of it. I'll go on ahead and make her a mod real quick. That way
Marcus, somebody else wants a wrench. I'm not gonna say who, but you know who
I know.
I'm referring to.
She got her wrench now. So, oh, wait a minute. Damn, I don't have you even. You don't even have your wrench. What the hell am I doing? So, yeah, got you with your wrench. Oh, wait a minute. Got to get Mona the wrench, too. But I think we're good. But yeah, this has been Talk of the Ages. So glad to have you here. So glad to have Chris here also. Thank you for everybody that came to join us, and I'll make sure to try to put it out a little bit of notice so you guys will be able to catch, the next episode. I'll try to see if I can link it up, bring Chris back over here more often. It's a lot more fun having Chris here. We're in tune with so many different subjects, and we talk about a lot of this stuff off cam. So it's good to bring the conversation on cam for you guys to hear our different perspectives on these things. Chris, you have anything which you would like to say before we get out of here?
Nothing really. Same as usual. Just take care of each other, be good to each other. Take care of yourself, watch your health, watch what you eat, and all that good stuff. Stay sucker free, stay Rona free, stay shot free. Take that for what you want to mean, but just that's it, man. Same old thing. Just be vigilant, pay attention, and relax. So new power's on with Tommy, so that'll be something to watch. I don't know if you watch Power. Yeah, I don't know if you watch Power, but
I haven't watched the newer stuff.
Yeah, me neither. But the
but
new,
Tommy back. I gotta watch Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy's story. It just started yesterday, so it's only one episode. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. I gotta show you about the gemstones. I'll call you. I'll call you once we get off.
All right.
But let me sign it off. But this has been Talk of the Ages. I'm your host, Marcus Young Morpheus Cage, or Marcus Rage. Oh yeah, it's called Force. Tina says she'll be watching it, and thanks again for having Jalen here, and for having Cy Lawson here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. You guys all have the rest of a good weekend. Force is the new one with Tommy, very. And hopefully you guys all have a blessed and safe week until next Saturday, or for some of you guys next Friday if you catch me on my catch me with my lessons. I'll see some of you Friday. I'll see some of you Saturday, and I'll see some of you guys next. Well, I don't know if I'll be doing anything next Sunday, Super Bowl. But plan for the weekend after that. There will definitely be Talk of the Ages, and I'll be coming back with probably an interview, maybe 2 interviews, maybe even a panel of interviews. So just watch out for this channel next Sunday. Oh, and the Political Matrix, we will be joining Uncle Warren on Extra Bulla on Thursday, February 17th. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. Make a circle on your calendar, even though we know the Super Bowl is pretty much fixed. We just got to figure out which way that Vegas wants it to go. So that said, you guys all have a good one. Thank you for tuning in.